Welcome into the Illini Inquirer podcast. It's Jeremy Werner, Joey Wagner live at State Farm Center after. I'll say what Joey was upset with me there. I'll get to it here, Joey. After we saw a really good basketball game, because my guy, Keisei Tominaga, just call me Jeremy Tominaga, making all these fans upset that I enjoy watching Tominaga play basketball. But Illinois won. You won 87-84. Illinois wins in overtime. Joey, Illinois had a 10-point lead late in the second half, and they blew it. 11-0 run for Nebraska, who took the lead on Rink Mass jumper with 9 seconds left, but Marcus Domask gets fouled. He splits the free throws. We head into overtime. Illinois makes enough free throws, gets enough happening at the rim that they're able to pull this one out and edge another close victory that felt too close for comfort. Second straight one at home after beating Indiana last week in an ugly win. But hey, they're winning these games. They've won 5 of 6, but that was a heck of a performance by Tominaga. 31 points, busts out of the slump. I think he was doing it just because I was there, Joe.
I tried to get a picture of you. All I have is just a picture of you looking real creepy when them looking not anywhere near you. Yeah, look, that was a really ugly win. You got to win those. You got to win ugly, but that final 3.5 minutes of regulation was gross. Illinois was 3 of 12 shooting. Obviously, that gave way to 3 of the final 10 shooting, excuse me. No, 3 of 12. I'm out of here, man. We're done. Get Piper. The 3 of 12 shooting from the floor in the final 3.5 minutes. Nebraska got hot. They couldn't get enough stops defensively. That inbound that Justin Harmon threw away led to a turnover, and Mass gets a layup at the other end. It's just, you got to get that cleaned up. I mean, you're going to take the win because you got out of there and you closed out a good Nebraska team. Like, there's still in my brain, at least for until maybe a week and a half ago, I still had Nebraska of just 4 straight years where it's like, oh my gosh, they're not good. That's a good team. That's a team that can make the NCAA tournament. You end up getting that when you needed that, but oh my goodness, it was not pretty down the stretch.
Nebraska has been awful on the road. They might have turned a corner tonight. I think we got to tip our cap to Nebraska, who had an epic performance by Tominaga, who was in a slump coming into this game, and he got hot early. Illinois can't let him do that, and he got hot early, and he was, confident the rest of the night. But Illinois survived that. I do think there's something to that because Purdue didn't survive that. Now, that was on the road. Wisconsin didn't survive that. Michigan State didn't survive that. Nebraska is good enough to come to Illinois and win now because not only is Tominaga fantastic to watch and a ridiculous player, but now you got Rink Mass, who is in consideration for me for all Big Ten. Right? There's a stretch big that him and Tominaga playing together, him and Wilcher playing together, with Juwan Gary and Bryce Williams. That's a legitimate NCAA tournament team that is really dangerous offensively. And listen, I looked at you at halftime, was like, man, if Illinois just makes some shots, I think they're going to blow away from this game. And they did for a moment. Then they let up and they didn't execute and they didn't make more shots. And Illinois didn't shoot well tonight, but you know what? They did a lot of other things to give themselves a chance to win. And that's what Brad Underwood's looking for. That's what you need in the NCAA tournament, Joe, is if the other team makes 12 of 28 from 3 and you only make 9 of 34, can you find other ways to win the game? And Illinois did. They dominated the glass. Ty Rodgers was an animal on the offensive glass. But I thought Luke Goody, who was 0 for shooting tonight, was fantastic on the glass as well. I thought Terrence Shannon came down with some big ones. And they made these guys outside of Tominaga work for it, and they made Tominaga hit ridiculous shots that he can make. So they did some things that I liked, but obviously missing free throws, turnovers really hurt them. But I do think they were the physical, team. They dominated the glass as they should, and that helped them escape with a victory here.
Yeah, I say this about an overtime game that Illinois trailed in the final 6 seconds of regulation. I feel like Illinois played better than Nebraska for a vast majority of the night. Luke Goody gets 1 or 2 of those to go. Justin Harmon's in a funk right now offensively. He's struggling a little bit to find his rhythm there. I feel like Illinois played better all night long, except for, Tominaga and Renick Mass got theirs, and they got a lot of them. They combined for 53 points. It's tough. Mass also put up 21 shots. So I don't feel like I have a lot of concerns, right? They missed shots that they should have made. The final stretch of regulation was concerning to me, but you're right. I told you, you said, that they make shots. They're going to win this game by 12 points because they looked like they were going to win the game by 12. They just looked better all night. The shots they missed, there were maybe a couple forced down the stretch, maybe Terrence Shannon forced 1 or 2, but they were great looks, like really, really, really great looks that they just missed.
Yeah, Luke Goody is not going to go 0 for 6 most nights. Harmon's not going to go 0 for 4, and they were all great looks. Like those are all corner threes for those guys. I thought Hawkins and Domask really made good decisions with the ball. Those guys combined for 10 assists on the night. Terrence Shannon got downhill and had some good moments tonight, especially when he was able to get on the break. And I thought he did a really good job chasing Tominaga around tonight. It was one of those nights for Tominaga. But I'm not too concerned, with what they were forcing. I mean, even Mast, who's a really good player, needed 21 shots to get 22 points. They just missed open looks tonight. And my biggest concern down the stretch there, Joey, was inbounding the ball. I was shocked Justin Harmon was continuing to be the one in overtime, and he almost turned it over again before he collected the bad pass to Terrence Shannon, got fouled and made 2 free throws. So kudos to him for that. But that was terrible. Terrence Shannon's just posting up Hoiberg, and you got to give him the ball. Just get the ball inbounds. It's your one job, and you have the advantage. That was really concerning to me. But it took Tominaga 31 points to get there, and it took a lot of missed free throws. Right, that's another concern you have with this team is, can they consistently make free throws? And it wasn't just the guys who normally miss free throws. Like Ty Rodgers 2 of 4 today, but Gary A has been slumping from the free throw line. Made 2 in overtime, but 5 of 8. Shannon missed 2 to close out the game. Domask misses 1 at the end of regulation that could have closed out the game. You kept opening the door, and you're fortunate. Like if Rink Mass shoots that 3 after Tominaga passes it, what happens there? So you did escape with 1, but you also gave yourself a chance to escape with it.
Yeah, you've got to escape with those. But as you get further down the stretch into February, into March, like it's harder to escape with those, right? Like you've got to have a little luck bounce your way to get out of there with that. It's clear the inbounds play it happened right in front of us, right? And we saw Terrence Shannon just posting up and just get him the ball in whatever capacity. And look, it wasn't just that. We can go back to the baseline inbounds play that Marcus Domask got fouled, and may have been a generous foul, right? It was just sloppy. I don't feel like we've seen that from Illinois much like this. That sloppy, ugly, like just not very crisp. And it wasn't all game. Like there were stretches of this game where they were really, really good, but just the missed free throws, the inbounding. I just feel like we haven't seen that version show up recently.
So I think even though they've closed out, right? I mean, I thought they played great in the clutch against Northwestern, getting into overtime, right? But do we have confidence this team can close out games? Even though they beat Indiana, even though they beat Nebraska, I think you have doubts about that because that's supposed to be Terrence Shannon time. Now it's Marcus Domask time. And Domask to draw that foul, I know he didn't make both free throws, but to draw that foul, like you had a chance to escape with a win based on that. And I just thought in overtime they attacked a little bit. Coleman Hawkins with a great pass to Quincy Guerrier. Coleman Hawkins hitting 2 clutch free throws. So they did make some clutch free throws in the overtime period. Harmon, Hawkins, and who else?
Domask.
Yeah. They all had a pair of free throws to kind of help close that one out. I mean, there wasn't a field goal in the final 2:40 between both these teams. So
it was just offense for defense and field goals. That's all it was.
Yeah.
For like 10 minutes of real time.
Yeah. So what is your level of confidence in this team to close out games? Because Indiana's not that good. Nebraska, I think, is a good team. I don't think they're a great team. But Northwestern had some ridiculous plays, but you weren't able to close that one out defensively either. Just haven't been in a lot of close games, right? Until now. And that's why this is good. Like you're getting forced to learn about yourself in these closing time moments.
Yeah, you're going to run into these in the Big Ten, right? Like you're trying to win a Big Ten. You're going to have these. I still feel confident because I still feel confident in the talent. Like in close games, I still feel like talent wins out. And Marcus Domask doesn't look like he's ever been sped up. He looks like he's so confident in doing what he does. I asked him about that turnaround that he hits. I thought his answer was awesome. It's like, I don't even see the defender. Like that is how confident he is in those shots where he's like, I don't feel like anyone is contesting. Then I look up film like, oh, yeah, it's pretty contested. Like that's the confidence you want with the ball, the game on the line, ball in his hands. Terrence Shannon is, I have to assume, like we thought Ohio State was the building point, and he's 6 of 16 today, 3 of 10. He had some big shots, but like I'll take the talent at the end of the day to close out a game. I'll take old guys who have been there. Quincy Guerrier, Justin Harmon didn't play particularly well today. Still take them down the stretch to close out a game as you get further into February. It's options. It's old and it's options. And
Yeah,
they're good.
We'll get some of your questions up here. Yeah, to have Domask and Shannon at the end. And I thought Coleman Hawkins was fantastic. Like, not a lot of shots were going down. And for him to hit 4 of 7 from 3, and I think he started 4 of 6. Like, that was huge for this team. I thought he was making good decisions with the basketball most of the night. And I think at least he kind of canceled out Mast, which is, I think, what his job was coming into tonight. I think my bigger concern, Joey, was you got this big contribution from Dane Danger for a second straight game. He had 6 points during that 9-4 run to kind of get up 61-55. And I'm like, okay, maybe Illinois can pull away here. And they just didn't. They missed a bunch of opportunities. They missed shots. I think they missed 6 or 7 shots in a row at that point.
There was one point there was a 3 that was from Goody that was all the way down that would have gone up 8. And then Danger missed that dunk on a putback. Like, it's hard to cut you off. They just missed those opportunities to slam that door shut.
Yeah. So, like, yeah, late in the game, the inbounds pass bothers me. You missed some shots, but it was more those, like that opportunity. Or when you're up 47-40, kudos to Tominaga and Mast for hitting a couple big 3-pointers, but that's the time. I feel like that's your killer time when this team can go on a big run, and they just weren't able to do that. So, I mean, some of that credit does go to Nebraska, but those moments to me, I was like, man, that's a missed opportunity.
I thought that 47-40 for Nebraska to not let that kind of slip away really fast there, because that felt like that blitz coming out of halftime. It's like, oh, wow, they're going to really get it going. I thought Fred Hoiberg called a really well-timed timeout. He got it with like 16 something of sorts. So you get that. You kind of cool everything down. It was loud in here. Then another quick dead ball, and you go quickly to the under 16. So all of that, like when you zoom out of it in real time, things really, really calmed down. And then they came and hit some big shots. But, yeah, there were chances that they were up by 6 or 7, and they should have really just stepped on it and closed the door shut. And you could have avoided that late inbounds. You could have avoided those missed free throws and some of those just mistakes down the stretch.
So Danger made 3 straight field goals, and then the next attempt he got was that put back dunk attempt that he just fumbled. But it was a Goody 3. I know it was open. Terrence layup, Domask 3-pointer, Harmon jumper, Harmon 3. I just felt at one point, I was like, for the first time in a long time, Joe, I was kind of like, can we get Danger a touch? Like, because he was confident. I thought Alec was a good matchup for him, because Alec, big, strong kid, 6'7", but Danger's bigger than him. And I thought he could bully him a little bit. So kudos to Danger that the last couple of games, he's been able to kind of get into a rhythm a little bit, showed up with intensity right away, with confidence right away, and making good decisions. But 6 points and 3 rebounds in 9 minutes. And he was a huge part of them building back up that lead.
Yeah, I asked Brad Underwood about him. Yes, I asked Dane in Ohio, because I've always thought, and I think I've probably said it on here, he strikes me as a guy who needs to get minutes to get comfortable. Like, he needs to settle into the game. Like, there are some guys who can come in and snap into it immediately. Like, we've seen Justin Harmon do that. It seems like at times Dane Danger needs a few minutes to get going, and that's just haven't been there for him. And then he goes and he plays that good game at Ohio State. It was really, really important off the bench. I thought he had a very similar spark tonight. And yesterday I said, Brad, what's the balance there? Because he's talked so much about, boy, I'm not comfortable when Coleman Hawkins isn't on the floor. I'm not comfortable when he's not on the floor. But then how do you get Dane in there, right? Like, you could move Coleman to the 4, sure, but it seems like they are very comfortable with him at the 5. And he's very comfortable there, and you're seeing that bear out in the way that he's playing. So how do you balance those things? Because, like, they don't mix very well, right? Like, if to get Dane, you almost, like, probably don't have Coleman out there. There's some flexibility, but
Coleman only, and I say only played 36 minutes tonight out of 45. Like, the fact that Danger gave you 9 minutes and didn't hurt you was huge. And he really helped you during that offensive stretch.
Sure,
so if you can get that 9 to 10 minutes to give Coleman a little bit of a breather, and look what happens. Coleman has one of his best performances of the season, to be honest with you. So kudos to him. Saw some life from Quincy today. Didn't love everything about his game. He sat for a long time, but did hit some shots, got to the free throw line. So kudos to him for bouncing back a little bit. But let's give some Ty Rogers love. I was asking you who's our star of the game, and I did not make it Tominaga, by the way, the upset of the century to everyone out there. But I made it Hawkins just because I thought his shot making and his playmaking was really huge for Illinois. and kind of canceling out Mass there. But you could have made the case for Ty Rodgers. I mean, 5 offensive rebounds, 14 rebounds on the game. He's 2 points shy of his second straight double-double. He's only got 2 career double-doubles, almost got a second straight tonight. 3 steals, 2 blocks. He looks comfortable, man. And he's making sure Brad can't take him off the court. Remember that little stretch of 2 weeks when Terrence came back and he's averaging 15 minutes? No, he's a 30-minute-a-game player. Like, he's just an energy leader, really, for this team. He's just prolonging possessions. Illinois didn't take advantage of enough of them tonight, but Illinois owned the glass and owned second chance points a lot due to Ty Rodgers.
Ty Rodgers rebounding he had 5 offensive rebounds. 5 of his 14 rebounds were offensive. His right,
verticality is
just crazy. I would love to know his vertical. Like, honestly, and it's
better than Terrence.
And he's got really long arms. Like, yeah, now I sound like Brad Underwood every time you ask him about Ty Rodgers and he goes out and reads off all of his measurements. But it's really the energy combined with all of those physical abilities, his knack for rebounding. He's hard to take off the floor. And I don't know, like, in 2024, if we'd ever think about saying that for somebody who just doesn't shoot the ball and isn't a center, right? Like, just the way that he plays, and he is really settled in to those 5s guarding him. Like, it honestly doesn't even feel like he thinks twice. Like, we talk about it more, and I'm sure at one of these points he's going to be like, yeah, I don't know, like, you don't have to keep asking me. Like, this is just a normal thing. And I'll be curious if any team tries to go away from that. Like, Michigan State is one I'm really curious about. Will Izzo, because he schooled Michigan State against their bigs. Like, he really, really exploited that matchup last time. So will Izzo go back to that? Will he try to put a guard? Like, you have to ask, how do you game plan for somebody who doesn't shoot? And then you put in everything else. Like, that's Point Illinois, right?
Well, and if Rodgers is going to do this, 8 points on 3 of 5 shooting, his cutting was awesome tonight. And I thought Domask's vision and Hawkins' vision of, they came out like they were taking open threes in that first half, didn't go in. Beginning of that second half, Joey, they got in attack mode. Let's get off the bounce, get to the rim. And when they collapsed on somebody, whether it's Domask or Hawkins or Shannon, they found Rodgers. They found Guerrier. They got 5 straight buckets, I think, at the rim, or 5 of 6. They made their first 6 shots. 5 were at the rim, 4 layups and a dunk. And then you had the Coleman Hawkins transition 3 that Terrence Shannon had the assist on. So it was a phenomenal blitzing to start. It was an 18-4 run going back to the first quarter. But Rodgers was a big part of that, attacking the rim and cutting. Like, he's become really good at that. And when you got a big that's collapsing and you got a little guy kind of coming over to Ty Rodgers, like, Ty can bully him and get up and dunk over him. There's just so much more confidence with him offensively right now. And no, he's not taking anything outside of the rim, but he's being an effective offensive player. And just all these offensive rebounds he is bringing down. I mean, it's effort, it's intensity. I asked him after the game, like, what is it? Like, what is the key to being able to do that? And it's mindset. It's going after it. And, him and Luke Goody are really attacking the rim. And I love it from both of them. Those guys combined for 22 of Illinois' 50 rebounds. And I mean, Goody only played 19 minutes tonight.
First of all, Ty Rodgers and Brad Underwood were made for each other. It's just absolutely the way that they approach everything, that they were made for each other. But yeah,
I think Ty can be an absolute star next year. I really think he can turn into a star next year. That's why this whole process of watching a guy over 4 years can be a lot of fun, and you don't get it as much anymore. But you see him barely play, but towards the end of the season, he kind of fights through that adversity and finds a role on an NCAA tournament team. This year, questioning himself, what's his role? And now we're starting to see this guy can be a double-double threat most nights, and one of the best defenders on the team. And then, Terrence leaves, Coleman leaves, Quincy leaves, Marcus leaves. I think Ty can really ascend. I don't know what that looks like as a star. Is it 12 and 8 and 5 every night? But he's going to be one of their most impactful players next year for sure. And right now he's, a guy that Brad Underwood should not take off the court very much.
No, I didn't even really like the offensive for defensive subs with Harmon late in the game. Just leave Ty out there, let him go. Yeah, and it's not even just last year to this year. It's just seeing him over the last month, 6 weeks, really find who he is and embrace who he is on the basketball floor. Like that Purdue game where he wasn't good. Like Brad Underwood said he's sick, okay. But he wasn't good that game, and that feels like forever ago. Like he is – that doesn't even feel like the same player. So it's not just year over year. It's how much he's just figured it out during this stretch and what that can mean for Illinois. I see someone says a star with no jump shot. Again, like you said, like how do you define like
go back to Draymond in college, right? Like he kind of had a similar path, to be honest with you. Like Draymond wasn't a great jump shooter. He became a decent one, a respectable one. Like Ty's got to do more offensively, but Ty can bully people to the rim, man. Like you have to respect him offensively with his cutting, all of that. Like how does he play without a Marcus Damask on the team is what I will be interested in. When you have
you got to find one, right? Like for any number of reasons, you have to find another Damask in the portal.
Yeah, and how does he play when he's got a Merez Johnson or Amani Hansberry on the court? Like those are questions I have, but I think he's got star potential in the Big Ten, and it's just fun to watch his confidence come and his impact come. Like maybe it's not as a top 2 scorer on the team, but I think he can be as impactful as anybody on next year's roster, depending on who they add in the transfer portal.
Yeah, I also want to add, you brought up Luke Goody. Tough night shooting it, right? A couple of them were basically down and came out, but he and Ty Rodgers, 22 rebounds, Nebraska, 33 rebounds. Like those two, Luke Goody's energy was unbelievable out there attacking the glass, saving some of those just hustle plays. He and Ty Rodgers both. Like, I don't know what, I'm not going to give away the player grades. I don't know that we've talked about it, but like you get a couple stars for that because he saved some possessions.
He went 0 for 6, and he's not going to be a 2-star grade for me. I don't think.
Right. And that's just kind of like, again, you talk about this Illinois team, and it's just a lot of options, right? There's just a lot of, and not just scoring. It's guys who can make those hustle plays, who can save up. Like you've seen Harmon do Feliz-like things this season. So it's just Brad Underwood built this roster. We talked all offseason about the point guard situation, and that's fair. I still think that's fair. Yeah. But, man, the rest of this thing is built like and Fred Hoiberg raved about his roster construction, the way that he's maximizing the talent on this team.
He raved about the offense, too. I asked Fred about, because he had mentioned the matchup offense. And whether you liked Fred as an NBA coach or not, he was an NBA coach. And so I asked him, and Fred's always great with us in the media, and I asked him about the offense. Is it trickling down from the NBA? And he said, yeah, and they have the guys to do it. What they're doing right now is basically what the NBA is doing, and they have the talent to do it. So him and Brad are close. I know that, and really respect each other, but you can tell Fred thinks this team is really, really good. And I think, you've heard that a lot from coaches throughout this year, and they got answers. They got a lot of answers. And a lot of that has to do with the roster they built. While you look at, I'm watching Indiana or Michigan or some of these other, Ohio State, and they just don't have a lot of answers, like for a bad night. And we can fairly criticize Brad Underwood for some things, but the roster he has built, the way these guys are playing hard almost every night, like it's going to give you a chance to win a lot of games. And that's why heading into the final 4 weeks of the regular season here, Joey, Illinois is tied for second place in the Big Ten because Wisconsin loses 2 games this week. And I think Purdue's going to be very hard to catch. I really do. You're going to have to beat them, and you need them to get upset by somebody else and really probably only lose 1 or 2 more games. But you're always putting yourself in that race yet again for a 5th straight year, really a 4th straight season. You're in contention for a Big Ten title, but you look like you're going to finish in the top 5, top 4, and likely get a double bye. And these wins are critical in that, finding a way to win a game and that a lot of teams would have lost, that maybe in more unfortunate circumstances you still could have lost if a shot goes in for Nebraska or a call doesn't go this way or whatever. But to win this one in Indiana when you didn't feel like you didn't play your best are huge. Yeah,
you can't, like, these are games that you just can't lose, right? Like, that sounds so elementary to say, but it's a big, if you're going to win a Big Ten, like, you've got to take some ugly wins like this and get going. But I mean, I'll go the other way, Jeremy, because I don't, if you want to win the Big Ten, and Brad Underwood talked about this yesterday, and make that run, you need more from Quincy Guerrier.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mean to.
It's weird to say when he has 12 and 7.
I know.
But yeah.
Yeah, just it's because he played so well for such a month of a stretch. It was just double-double after double-double. He was hitting threes.
Illinois shot 34 threes tonight, and I felt like they should have had more. Like, I understand there's a lot of threes. There were so many open ones. And I thought at points they did a good job attacking. Some of Terrence's late in the game I could have done without when they were off the dribble. But the in-rhythm ones, I don't care. Like, those are fine. This is a good enough shooting team. Luke Goody and Justin Harmon are taking them, yes. like Quincy, take him. Like the last couple of games, he's been very hesitant and he's become the pump fake king. And that's what I loved about Coleman Hawkins tonight. Like he was that guy before. He's taking him confidently right now. And that was huge, hitting 4-7.
Coleman Hawkins, you end up making him the star of the game. Yeah. I think we switched to that. Yeah, how can you, like, just the way that I have his defensive stat I want to throw out shortly, but him confidently shooting threes like that just changes so much about what this offense can be. And especially when he's making, I mean, he made 4 threes tonight. Some of them were like line drives that I don't know that you really felt good were going to go in, but he's improved so much as a shooter. And you pair that with what he does defensively. Jeremy, he's played 18 games this year. He has 2 or more steals in 11 games as a 5-man. Like, we worried about him. Like, last year, we thought he was left off the all-defensive team because he didn't have the counting stats. And, like, for probably the first 2 months of the season, you thought, oh, is it going to be the same? Like, he passes the eye test in every which way. Mm-hmm. But then you start seeing him put up these numbers. I mean, 2 steals today. None against Ohio State, 2, 2, 5, 6, 1, 2. I mean, that's he just impacts so much. And like I get it. I mean, you know how it is, Jim. We've talked to Bradford enough times, and he goes, I just don't feel confident with Cole, or I don't feel confident when Coleman isn't out there. And you're like, okay, all right, well, but you see it. Like now you're seeing it all come together. And tonight was just such a phenomenal game for him. And it kind of gets overlooked a little bit because he's had such brilliant games over the last 5 weeks, but he and Marcus Domask are pacing this as Illinois tries to figure it out with Terrence Shannon and get him back in and figure out getting guys like Harmon and Gary going.
All right, let's get to some of these questions. We'll get some of your questions before we get out of here. Jonathan was convinced Jeremy and his love of Tominaga was going to jinx us with Tominaga. He was due, man.
Jeremy said before the game, I hope Tominaga scores a ton. That's what he said. I said, Jeremy, I don't know if you should say that. He didn't say that. He did not say that. But you've been very open about enjoy watching him play.
Like he does that against any other team. People are like, holy cow. And I get it. He's a Japanese kid with like no muscle definition. He's got this headband. But like he's a baller. Like he's like some of these plays in the pick and roll with Mast. Like he didn't make a 3, but like he create with Mast and dump it off, and that's a great duo. Like Tominaga can play, and he's not just a shooter, but he's just a weapon. Brad Underwood said it after the game. Like he made me not sleep well at night, and I knew it because he was struggling, and you just know that he's going to break out of that at some point, and he's not lacking for confidence. When Nebraska has him and Wilcher who can both do that, like they might have a chance to win 20 games and get to the NCAA tournament and be dangerous once they get there.
Yeah, they could also be that team in the Big Ten tournament that is playing into the semifinals. Like I don't know that they're probably not going to go into the top 4 seeds, right? That feels like Northwestern in the top 3 in the conference, but they could be a team that's like, oh boy, Nebraska just kind of flipped this bottom half of the bracket or top half of the bracket upside down, and there they are.
Penn State from last year, right? Like it's because they're going to like that Big Ten tournament is probably going to matter more to Nebraska than any other team there.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, who the locks, right? We should go through the locks real quick. Illinois, Purdue, Wisconsin, I think Northwestern.
Well, Northwestern might not be such a lock. I mean, that wasn't a very.
So
Michigan State is still a lock. They don't really have good wins yet, but they've played such a tough schedule. They have no bad losses. They need to win more. I know a lot of people have them as like a 10 seed, but their metrics are so good, and that stuff matters a lot. Like a lot of their losses are close games too, so that helps them, just like Illinois. I think Michigan State right now would be a lock for me, because I think they're going to get to 10 to 11, 12 wins in the Big Ten, because the bottom of it's so bad, and they don't really lose bad games. So I think Michigan State's a lock, but man, if Nebraska would have won tonight, they were for sure a lock. Yeah,
it's different. You know, we're used to seeing 6, 7 Big Ten teams, and it doesn't feel like that this year. So yeah, man, Tominaga's fun to watch though. To get back to the original point.
Yeah. What's the deal with those inbound plays? Ken asks. I thought Harmon lost confidence for whatever reason. I thought the moment got to him, and to be honest, I would have taken him out probably in the overtime, because they were the inbounds to Domas, there wasn't much help for him either. And then it should have been a turnover when he inbounded it to Shannon and ended up corralling it back and getting 2 free throws. Kudos to him to making them. But yeah, that was not good. But Brad Underwood kept going to him. Yeah,
kudos to Coleman Hawkins, who realized it right around, because it was close to a 5 for him to inbound it. And Coleman Hawkins was jumping, yelling for a timeout. He must have not been heard, but he recognized it. Then obviously it ended up in the turnover. But they got to get that cleaned up. Like you've got to have that fixed going into this final stretch here.
Josh Harmon is going to be key down the stretch. DGL's defense impresses me every time, but he doesn't always make the right play. DGL is still a season away in his decision making. Yeah, I know when Harmon has a bad couple games here, you want to pull that ripcord and see the new flashy toy. DGL took a 3 in rhythm. I thought he bodied up Tominaga for the possession or so that he was in, but Justin Harmon's your guy at that spot. So you're going to continue to roll with him. But I agree with that. Justin Harmon, if he can be consistent, like you're bringing that off the bench along with Goody, along with your starting 5, it's hard to compete against that.
Yeah, and you've seen him have stretches of good basketball, and it just feels like a kind of a slump right now, I suppose. But I mean, you go back to that late December stretch where he's 18 against, Fairleigh Dickinson, 20 against Northwestern, 10 against Michigan State, 11 at Michigan, 18 against Rutgers. I mean, we've seen him be really, really productive player for Illinois, and it's just got to find it right now, right?
Brad, good question. Why didn't TSJ dunk the fast break at the end of the game? It would have sealed it. Instead, he missed 2 free throws, gave him a chance. I get the time's probably more important, in a lot of people's minds. I think he thought he was just going to run it out, but Nebraska followed him. Yeah, dunk. I'll always take those points. And it's not like flashy points. You ain't showing anybody up. You're closing the game out. I would have dunked. I got to go back and look at exactly what happened, but he definitely pulled up when he didn't have to.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you're right. I don't know that he expected the foul there.
Yeah.
I don't want to speak for him. I don't anticipate speaking with him for any time soon. But yeah, you got to dunk that. I mean, just take the extra possession and go.
All right. Let's see what else we got. Red, they lose this game without Ty crashing the boards for those rebounds. Kudos to Ty. Yeah.
Yeah, he's so good.
So easy to root for, too. He's one of my favorite guys to talk to or ask questions of, too, on this team.
Yeah, and he's honest about. He doesn't like talking about himself. Ty doesn't, but he's a really, really good quote. He's insightful, and you really do hear so much about how he and Brad, like you can just hear in the way they both talk, how they share so many thoughts about just how to go out there and win and how to get those wins.
Yeah. When Brad went to Ty, like Ty was going to be the point guard option, I go, I don't know about this, but I trust Ty Rodgers. Like I believe in Ty Rodgers, just the person, the player, his approach, his mental acumen, his attitude, all those things. And it's worked out for Illinois so far. Brad, maybe winning a close game at the end will help them stay calm in those games in the tournament. That's a great thing about right now. You're trying to build up for the tournament, and I know Derek Piper, which how do we get this far in? Congratulations, Derek Piper and Haley Piper and Cade Piper for welcoming in Nelly to the world. We're giving Derek some time off here to spend time with his family and being a girl dad. That's so awesome. But Derek, one of his things has been, how does this team execute in closing games? And once Terrence was gone, that was a big question. But I think the answer is Domask, right? Like you're going to run stuff for Domask. And I think Coleman got the ball in some key situations today. But I think Terrence could have made a couple better decisions. But I'm still going to go with that guy. Like there was a lot of questions about Terrence Shannon here. Wasn't an efficient night. But boy, he made some big shots, Joey, down the stretch. 2 of those 3 threes to get the lead to 10 points. Like that guy still takes you to another level. You don't win tonight without Terrence Shannon, both hounding Tominaga and scoring 19 points.
Yeah, there was a couple 3. There's him. It was a stretch of 3 made shots with 3-pointers and 2 from him, 1 from Coleman Hawkins. It wasn't efficient. I think you're still seeing some of that inefficiency. There's some drives where it's like it feels like he's hoping for a whistle on some of those drives. So you're getting there. He's getting back into form, I guess. But yeah, the efficiency hasn't. The points have been there, but the efficiency and the eye test really haven't always passed since he's been back.
But if it's still not a great night, he had 19 points.
Right, that's what. Like
it made a huge defensive play. Like
he had the game-sealing steal.
Yeah, they blitzed Tominaga, forced the ball out of his hands, which I loved. Now, Mast had an opportunity to hoist that 3 up, and he'd been making some, but I think you'd rather have Mast shoot it than Tominaga. So I love getting out of Tominaga's hands. But Terrence recovered quickly enough, and Mast fumbled it, and he was there to get the steal and poke it away and get it to Coleman. So that was a huge defensive play. Like Tominaga goes for 31 points, and Shannon was guarding him most of the night, but boy, you just got to tip your cap to Tominaga in some of those.
I thought Terrence had a couple, played really, really good defensive possessions on Tominaga. Tominaga is a good scorer. He's going to you can get shots up. He's going to make shots, but it's hard. I don't know how to really contextualize. You felt like seeing Terrence Shannon at Ohio State, like he had figured it all out back on the floor. And then tonight there were some inefficiencies and he still had 19. So I don't know, Jeremy. I don't know how to contextualize what you're seeing out of him on the floor. And I'm hoping you can do it better than I'm attempting.
Here's the simple thing. You're 4-1 with him. And it took an epic Northwestern performance to beat you. Now, the schedule has been a little easier. It's been Rutgers, Northwestern, Indiana, Ohio State, Nebraska, right? So this isn't Michigan State. It's not Purdue. It's not Wisconsin. Your road game is at Ohio State and at Michigan, 2 teams that are really struggling. But he makes you better. He certainly makes you better. I don't think you go through as many offensive lows because of him. And you just get points in transition, man. Illinois is able to get some of those. He gets to the free throw line, only made 3 of 6 tonight because he missed those last 2. But he gets to the free throw line and gives you some of those buckets that can kind of either prolong a run or they can, end a run by the other team. So I think those are really, really important. So he's getting there, man. He's still helping you. Wasim Underwood losing his cool wasn't a good look. You asked him, Joey, you tried. I appreciate you trying. What happened there? Nothing. And he gave a smirk to you. He was yelling on the sidelines, "Don't you cuss at me," to the referee. He said that several times, some more colorful language as well. And the referee did not like that he was saying that to him. They seemed to make up after that. But yeah, it would have been something if those 2 free throws would have been the difference in the game. It obviously helped get it to overtime and all of that. But yeah, that was the first technical on Underwood this year, I believe.
Yeah, I haven't seen him. I don't remember the last time, Jeremy, that I've really seen the game
for such a hard ass who works the officials. He does not get a lot of technicals.
No, because I think a lot of them know him and they know he's a hard ass. Yeah. They're not going to really. They understand Brad during a possession and Brad after a possession are 2 different people. I haven't seen him that fired up though. Was that Ohio State that he got tossed in the most spectacular fashion possible? Until Chris Collins. Yeah, it was here. He takes off his sports coat. He's doing the whole show there and try, but I don't feel like I've seen him at an official that worked up in a while.
Yeah. Wasim also said Bowie had his way. Tominaga did tonight too. Brad make any adjustments for either. Coleman brought up that they maybe could have blitzed him a little bit. Maybe. Tominaga took tough shots, man. Boo-Boo's really good. These are 2 of the best guards in the Big Ten. They're going to get some. Jameer Young's going to get his. Other teams have really good players too. So when other teams are like, man, Marcus Damask, how does he end up with 20? It's just, he's a good player. They're going to find a way to get buckets.
Yeah, I mean, every time a player has a big game, you think, oh, they should have adjusted. And there's a lot of cases, sure, but we're talking those 2, and I'm glad you mentioned Jameer Young because he needs to be in this conversation too. Really talented, really talented players.
Yeah, him, Boo-Booey, best guards in the Big Ten. Let's see if we got any more.
I just want to bring up Mark said the offense ran really good tonight, moved the ball side to side. I thought Illinois did a good job of ball movement. They had 18 assists on 29 made field goals. That's a good ratio. You'll take that. Yeah, I thought their ball movement was good.
I thought their offense was good. They just didn't make enough shots. Doug, early in the season, Jeremy said free throws will probably lose this team a game this year. Today, I thought that was going to happen. Will take the win? I agree. To escape with a win where you miss so many huge, open shots and free throws usually doesn't happen. I think that says you're doing some other things good.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I feel like my concern about this team's ability to shoot free throws has really lessened as this season has progressed. And early on, it was bad. Early on, Dane took a lot. When you start getting Marcus Domask, Terrence Shannon, Coleman Hawkins, Luke Good, you start getting those guys shooting free throws. Yeah, you're going to feel a lot better about that. Tonight was an obvious outlier, especially down the stretch. But I feel like my concern on that front has really gone away.
Yeah, Quincy had been in a little bit of a rut. He's one I'm not confident in coming in, but I mean, he made 5 of 8 at the end of the night. That's not good, but it bounced back after I think a 0-for-2 start tonight. I think Terrence is going to make most of his free throws, so I'm not going to get too concerned about him. And Ty, if he shoots over 50% most games, I'm going to be pretty happy with it because it means he's one attacking to get to the free throw line. But if he's a 60+% free throw shooter, I think he'll take that with where he's at in the game. Red, can Dane get some love? Yeah, we gave him some love, man. I love it, Joey. The last 2 games, I just think his mind's been in the game, and I don't think he's just been hunting offense. I think he's been taking good. He's been patient with his approach to the rim. I think he's running good, smart offense, and he's given him something defensively. Like he forced a couple of misses by Mass when he was in.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he's been like it can't be easy, right, to not play and be, especially after what you did last year, and to go in there and try to rev it up. Somebody else said he's an oven, not a microwave. That's a great comp to me. Like I've always thought it takes some time, and he admitted it. I shouldn't say admitted. He said as much the other night. Like he's just a guy that feels like he's got to settle in, and he didn't feel like he hasn't been trying to do too much. Like there were times you'd see him dribble forever, and they would be like, "Oh God, stop dribbling, please." And
I think he thought he had to be. I think he thought he had to be last year Dane Danger in 2 minutes of action. Like I got to get all this in right away. It's like, dude, just play hard,
just run the rim and rebound,
bring intensity at the rim, and be patient. Make smart decisions. And it's working for him. Like he's been just noticeably more physical and intense on the offensive rebound chances, playing okay defense, and then Mass got one on him, but I thought that was more of a Ty Rodgers thing than him, and just finishing at the rim. And not forcing things. I think he's been really patient with his approach. So kudos to him, man. That can't be easy, but I think he's kind of figured it out. And that's huge if you can get that kind of 10 minutes from him.
Oh, it's incredibly big, especially to just keep Coleman. I know Brad's raved about Coleman Hawkins' conditioning and his ability to play a lot of minutes, but a good change of pace, a good curveball, big to throw out there, and to give Coleman some needed rest. Yeah, he's playing his way into a really important role.
We'll see him. Tominaga's bomb at the buzzer looked dangerous for a second. I saw an Illinois staffer in the hallway, Joey. They thought it was going in.
Yeah, I also don't think it was out of his hand in time. Just for my first watch initially, I don't know that I would – that would have been a tough review. But, yes, it did look like it was going in.
Greg, what's better for Illinois, the Purdue win or if Wisconsin had won? I think you would have rather had Wisconsin win because I think Wisconsin's going to lose more games the rest of the year. Like I think they are more vulnerable to other teams. A Nebraska can happen. I don't see Purdue losing at home. I just don't see it happening. And it's very hard to find 3 more losses on the schedule. Like, can Illinois get through the schedule with only 1 more loss? I just think that's very, very difficult. Given what they have with Wisconsin, Purdue, and going on the road to Michigan State, I think that's going to be very difficult. So you never know in the Big Ten. Any game you can be tested, and Purdue, if they don't shoot well in a game, and the other team does, you got a chance. But I just think Purdue is clearly the front runner. They got a 1.5 game lead here, and it's going to be hard because I just don't see them losing many more games left on their schedule. But you never know. Give yourself a chance, and you got to keep winning, man, because they ain't going to lose very many.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I'm also just a believer of just be as lumped up as long as you possibly can and to get Wisconsin back down to the pack. I understand that Purdue's not going to lose many more games, but I don't know. Maybe I look at it incorrectly. I'd rather see all the losses in one.
In the short term, it does better for your mind because, if Wisconsin would have won today, they would have had 10-1 in the Big Ten or something like that.
That's right.
Like all of a sudden they're just kind of, or 10-2, I believe. Like they're just kind of running away a little bit, and Purdue would have, fallen back to you. But I get
it. Your logic is 100% on. Yeah.
Short term would have looked better, I think, because it's bunched a little bit more. Or short term looks better because Purdue won today, but long term, they're the better team. Like they're one of the best 2 teams in the country. I think it's pretty clear. Purdue and UConn are the best teams in the country right now. And then you got other teams like North Carolina that are in the conversation. Then a bunch of teams after that I don't think there's much difference in the 2 seeds and 5 seeds, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we've had this conversation a number of times in our group chat about that exact same thing. I don't know. Maybe my brain's too short term.
I like Tennessee though, man. That loss actually keeps looking better and better. It's really
that loss looks better and better, and I think Maryland is going to look better and better by the end of the season. Not that you would have ever wanted that, but that loss might not age as poorly as it looked in the moment.
Yeah. All right. I think that'll do it for us. We thank you for all the questions. Sorry we didn't get to all of them, but do want to shout out the Pipers. Congratulations with Nelly showing up in the world. Everybody's happy and healthy. We're happy about that. We'll get Piper back here soon. We'll give him a break on the road because he's got to help Haley here for a little bit, Joey. But we'll get him back on the road in time for Big Ten tournament. That's for sure.
That's fine. We'll just open our Venmo. Piper knows how to find us. We will make sure his money goes to great use for us on the road.
Appreciate that. Everybody, have a great night. Take care of each other. Hit the like button on your way out of the YouTube channel. We appreciate the 500 plus that are on here. Hit the notifications bell. Subscribe to us. We appreciate all the support. And if you're listening on the podcast, give us a rating review wherever you get your podcast. Joey and I will have plenty of coverage from this game at Illini Inquirer as well. Everybody have a great night. Take care of each other. We'll talk to you next time on the Illini Inquirer podcast.